Good afternoon. Let us be very quiet now. We are going to dedicate these few moments to a simple but radical clarification. The search for God presumes distance, and distance is the illusion we are here to dissolve. You cannot go anywhere to find God, because you cannot go anywhere to leave God. God is the only presence. God is the only power. And so the quest is not to reach God, not to persuade God, not to draw God near, but to recognize what is already here. This recognition does not come by miles of travel, nor by piles of words. It emerges in a turning, a simple inward bow of awareness, in silence, in stillness, in quietness, in confidence. Right here, where you are, is holy ground. Right here is both God and man, not two, but one life expressing itself. I and the Father are one. Not tomorrow, not when you have amended, achieved, or arranged your affairs. One, now. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Not poetry, not a wish. Fact. Fact to be felt more than explained, realized more than discussed. If you have imagined God as over there, while you are over here, that imagination has been the root of your weariness. It has made you a wanderer in a land where there is nowhere to go. The moment you stop seeking a distant God, that very moment you begin to recognize the presence you cannot leave. Nearer than hands and feet, closer to you than breath, the infinite is at the center of your being. This is the temple of the living God. You carry the sanctuary not as a burden, but as your own life, your own consciousness of being. To help this recognition ripen into steady awareness, we adopt a very modest daily practice, 5 minutes only. Not to create God's nearness, for that would be nonsense, but to awaken to whatever is. In those 5 minutes, we speak a few clear truths, not as magic formulas, but as doorways thrown open. God is the only power. I and the Father are one. I live and move and have my being in God. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Then, be very still. Let the words fall back into the sea of silence from which they rose, and in that silence, allow the presence to announce itself. The power is not in the many words. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows truth. So do not strain. Do not strive. Rest. Consent to what is. Let the wandering mind come home to the simple center. God is here. God is all. God is the life, law, and love of this very moment. As you turn within day by day, 5 minutes at a time, you will discover you have not been traveling toward God at all. You have been ceasing to imagine a distance, and in that cessation, peace appears. And so it is. Now then, let us look honestly at the root of our weariness. Why do we wander in mind and tremble in heart, even after hearing that God is here? It is because, almost without noticing it, we have entertained a hidden assumption that life is governed by two powers, God and something else. God and circumstance. God and disease. God and money. God and the opinions of men. And with this acceptance of two powers, the heart divides, hope flickers, and fear is granted a throne it never earned. Always remember this. It is not that problems are powerful. It is that our belief confers upon them a seeming power until consciousness returns to the one. The shadow on the wall looks large because the light is behind us and our attention is upon the form. Turn and face the light, and the shadow has nothing with which to argue. So with threats. They present themselves as forces. They are but appearances. The causative presence is God alone. God is the only power. As a matter of fact, never deviate from the beginning. What God is, God expresses. All that God made is good. Therefore, evil, as an entity in itself, is not present. What we have called evil is a mistaken sense, a dream of separation, a belief that there could be a place where God is not, a law other than the law of spirit, a life outside the life that is God. Do you see? If there were truly another power, God would not be God. But God is God, one without a second, and within that allness, no other causation stands. Disease is not a power. Supply or lack is not a power. Weather is not a power. The body is not a power. The world is not a power. Only God is power. And so, when fear rises, it is fear of a second power, a phantom promoted by our consent. Withdraw the consent, not by argument, not by battling shadows, but by remembering, I and the Father are one. I live and move and have my being in God. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. As these truths are recognized, fear finds no perch, for its only footing was the belief in two. This is why we have been given a modest 5 minutes each day. Not to fight darkness, but to abide the light. Not to affirm 100 things against 100 threats, but to concede one thing. God is the only presence and the only power here and now. We speak the truth to turn the face. We enter the silence to let the light be itself. And in that recognition, in that stillness, in that quietness, in that confidence, the shadow world thins, the heart steadies, and peace appears. Not by might, not by power, but by the grace of God. Now then, let us be exact about this point, because upon it rests the difference between talking about God and witnessing God. Voicing the truth prepares the way. It clears the mental field. It turns the face toward the light. But it is not the healing agency. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows truth. Not the words themselves, not the beauty of the phrasing, not the intensity of our declaration, but the quiet consent after it, the inner yielding in which the presence announces itself and does its own work. Here is the rhythm. Statement of truth, release, listening stillness. We speak, we let go, we listen. The seal is placed on the treatment through our silence. If we speak and then rush to speak again, we have not yet trusted the One to be what the One is. Therefore, make it your holy practice to utter a simple truth and then retire into the sanctuary of quiet. Silence, stillness, quietness, then confidence. Confidence is not force. It is not the bravado of a human mind. Confidence is the natural fruit of resting in what already is. It rises, like dawn remembered, when we cease to agitate the night. Some of you have tried to feel God and have grown weary in the trying. As a matter of fact, trying to feel God is the subtle denial of God's nearness. Effort implies absence. Receptivity implies presence. To reach, to strain, to attempt to produce a feeling is to confess, God is not here. I must bring God. But to be still, to listen, to yield. This is to say, I and the Father are one. I live and move and have my being in God. Lo, I am with you always. Not by might, not by power, but by the grace of God does realization dawn. Be very gentle with this. Do not hammer at heaven. Open the window and let in the air already pressing upon the pane. So we will return to silence repeatedly. Not as filler, not as a pause between ideas. Silence is the central action. The declaration is the key turned in the lock. The opening of the door is the listening. Let us make it practical. God is the only power. Then be very still. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Then wait without words. No weapon formed against thee shall prosper. Then rest and let the presence be the presence. Do you feel how the mind's edges soften? How fear loosens when you do not feed it with argument? In that unlabored quiet, peace reveals itself. The work is done where we do not work. This is how the 5 minutes are to be received, and, in truth, how every hour may be sanctified. Statement, release, listening, silence, stillness, quietness, then confidence. Again and again we place the seal upon our prayer by our consent to be silent. And in that consent, the temple of the living God shines from within. And you know without words, be not afraid, the Spirit of God is upon me. And so it is. Let us turn now from idea to place. Not a place in geography, but a place in awareness. Look, right here. Not up there, not out there, but here within the very capacity by which you know you exist. This is the temple of the living God. Not a temple built with stones, not a sanctuary one enters and leaves, but the indwelling Holy of Holies that you carry because it carries you. Right here is both God and man. One life, one being, one presence expressing itself as the I that now hears, sees, breathes. I and the Father are one. This is not a boast, not a claim of a human mind. It is the recognition that there is no self apart from God to be separate, to fear, or to strive. When we say closer than breath, we are not speaking poetry. Breath is already intimate. It moves without permission. It arrives unannounced and departs without effort. Yet notice, you are aware of it. That awareness which knows the breath is closer than the breath itself. Closer than breath means there is no gap at all between you and the sustaining presence. No distance to cross, no bridge to build, no hour to wait. God is not approached. God is recognized. The instant you rest in the simple fact of being, before thought, before concern, you are at the door of the sanctuary, and the door is open. Now then, be very gentle. I and the Father are one does not make a little self big. It dissolves the very dream that there is a little self at all. The Father doeth the works. Not I, a separate somebody with plans and fears, but the one I which is God, being itself as the life I am. This recognition disarms pride as easily as it disarms fear, because it leaves no separate claimant. In this humility, in this stillness, the presence announces its allness. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Not promise only, fact. Fact felt as quiet sufficiency moving through the body, fact known as peace, unthreatened by circumstance. Let us end the habit of postponement. You do not become spiritual at the end of a road. You awaken to the spirit that is the road, the walker, and the walking. Now, this very instant is holy. This very breath, witnessed in silence, reveals the life that does not come and go with inhalation or exhalation. The awareness aware of breathing was before the breath, remains during it, abides after it. That awareness is your simplest doorway. Step not by motion, but by consent. Consent to be as you are in God. So, as we prepare for our 5 minutes, we do not prepare to travel. We prepare to notice. Place attention softly upon the fact that you are. Let 1 or 2 truths open the inner gate. God is the only power. I live and move and have my being in God. Then be still and let the nearness prove itself. Not by might, not by power, but by the grace that is already here will realization flower. In that flowering, fear finds no root, because there is no soil of separation left in which to grow. This is the practice and the life. To sit quietly, and to walk, to speak, to work, from the same temple awareness. Nearer than hands and feet, closer than breath, the infinite is your sufficiency. Therefore be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon you, within you, as you, one presence, one power, the very life you are living. And so it is. Let us enter now. Sit quietly where you are. Let the body be at ease, no pose to hold, no performance to maintain. Soften the eyes, or close them if it is natural. Let the hands rest as if carried. Allow the breath to be just as it is. No arranging, no improving. We are not going anywhere. We are consenting to what is already here. Now a simple declaration, once, without force. God is the only power. Therefore I need not be afraid. Therefore I can be still. Be very still now. Stop speaking inwardly. Listen. Let the silence be the communion. Again, gently, as if setting a lamp in a window. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thou art with me. Now, rest. No more words. Let the presence announce itself. Silence, stillness, quietness, and then confidence. If thoughts arise, do not wrestle with them. Do not chase, do not correct, do not explain. As a matter of fact, let them drift as leaves on a stream while you return, not to a sentence, but to the felt fact of nearness. Closer than breath. The awareness that knows the breath is already here. Abide as that simple awareness. No strain. A few words only to turn again. I and the Father are one. I live and move and have my being in God. God is the only presence in this place. Now be very silent. Place the seal on these truths by not adding to them. Let the work be done where we do not work. Not by might, not by power, but by the grace of God. If the mind presents a need, a memory, a fear, do not argue. Withdraw consent from a second power by returning gently to the one. Thou art with me. Feel the weight of the body supported. Feel the breath come and go by itself. Notice that which is aware remains unmoved. Rest there. Silence is the treatment. Silence is the communion. Once more, a final turning of the heart. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. I will never leave you nor forsake you. God is the only power. Now, lay the words down as one would lay a tool on a bench when the door has already opened. Listen. Receive. Let the presence be the presence. We close without leaving. No climax, no effort. Only a quiet certainty dawning of itself. This is the temple of the living God. This is the sanctuary within. The presence is here. And as we open the eyes or lift the gaze, let nothing break the continuity. Nearer than hands and feet, closer than breath. The infinite remains our sufficiency. And so it is. When the mind rises from silence and begins to parade its old headlines, health, money, relationships, world conditions, do not be surprised. That is its habit. It seeks to reassert a world of two powers. This is not a failure of your practice. It is the very moment your practice exists for. The appearance of a weapon is not the proof of a power. It is the invitation to remember the one power. Right here, quietly, withdraw your consent from a second cause. Remember, God is the only power. Therefore, what appears as threat has no law, no source, no substance with which to prosper in the presence. Make this your gentle treatment, and then be still. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. Do not multiply words. Let these few be lamps, not swords. Speak them once or twice as a turning, and then cease. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows truth. Place the seal on the treatment through your quiet. Silence, stillness, quietness, and then confidence. Understand what we mean by armor. We are not forging steel. We are awakening to identity. Robed in the robe of spirit, clad in the armor of spirit, you are not encased. You are transparent to truth. Armor of spirit is consciousness anchored in presence. It is the realized awareness that I and the Father are one. In that realization, fear cannot fasten because it finds no separate self to grip, no second law to invoke. Protection is not control of circumstances, it is recognition. It is the deep, unargued knowing that only God is power, so fear has nothing to stand on. And so when the doctor's word, the banker's letter, the late-night memory, or the morning news knocks at the door, do not argue with it. Do not fight a shadow on the wall. Turn and face the light. A single inward bow. God is the only power. Thou art with me. Then be very silent. Not by might, not by power, but by the grace of God does the heart steady. In that stillness, the situation is seen for what it is. A wave upon the surface of a sea that does not move. The sea is your being in God. The wave cannot drown its source. Make this your way throughout the day. If fear knocks, answer with remembrance, not debate. Touch the breath and notice the one who knows the breath. Whisper within, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, and lay the words down. 10 seconds of receptive quiet will do more than 10 minutes of mental combat. As you repeat this day after day, fear is not suppressed, it is outgrown. The belief in two powers loses its authority, and peace becomes the atmosphere you carry. This is the temple of the living God, and you are in it now because it is in you. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Therefore, be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon you. God is the only power. Rest in that, and let the presence be the presence. And so it is. Now we come to the dividing line that quietly turns a student into a practitioner. Recognition of truth makes you a student. Demonstration of truth makes you a practitioner. Agreement with words is not the same as the realized word. We have spoken, we have been silent, and perhaps you have already noticed it. The change does not announce itself with fireworks. It reveals itself as life lived differently, because the presence has been allowed to be presence. After silence, not before it. Do not look for signs, look for fruit. Demonstration is the softened answer where once there was a hard reply. Demonstration is the unhurried choice where panic used to push. Demonstration is the resentment that melts without rehearsal, the apology that arises without humiliation, the wisdom to say no without fear, and yes without bargaining. Demonstration is the phone call that surprises you with favor, the bill met in a way you did not arrange, the body settling from turmoil to ease without a campaign of anxiety. Not magic, not manipulation of outer forms, but outer forms conforming to the inner recognition that God is the only power. The sequence is always the same. Truth acknowledged, silence received, and then, without strain, life bears witness. Not by might, not by power, but by the grace of God. Now then, let us be careful with our measuring rod. Sensations are not our barometer. You may feel warmth one day and nothing the next. That has nothing to do with the reality that abides. Measure the practice by the quieting of fear over time, by the steadying of trust in the middle of unfinished stories, by the shortening of the interval between the knock of trouble and the remembrance, "Thou art with me." Do you see? As that interval dwindles, demonstration ripens. The Spirit of God is upon me becomes not an emergency flare, but the very air your day breathes. This maturing rests on simple fidelity. Never neglect one single day of reminding yourself. Reminders are not performances, they are doorways. A few clear truths spoken sincerely, and then our consent to be silent. This is the hinge upon which demonstration swings. Day by day, the habit of returning to the sanctuary becomes identity. You walk clothed in remembrance. This is the temple of the living God, not as a phrase, but as a manner of being. And because I and the Father are one, the need to push, to rush, to prove, yields to grace, and life quietly aligns. A practitioner is not noisy. A practitioner is not superior. A practitioner is simply one who has learned to place the seal on truth through silence, and then to let the Father do the works. When the occasion arises, the treatment is immediate and inward. God is the only power. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Then be still. The result belongs to God. Your part is consent, trust, and the quiet courage to refrain from re-entering with human will. We will deepen this now. In a moment, we shall enter a second round, not to recapture a feeling, but to train repeatability, to stabilize remembrance, so that it travels with you into phone calls, corridors, and crossroads. We will speak little, listen much, and let the presence confirm itself. And as we do, remember. The sign that you are becoming a practitioner is not that you feel more, it is that you fear less. God is the only power. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows truth. And so it is. Let us begin with the shorter entry, the doorway you can carry anywhere. One breath only. Notice it come, notice it go. Now a single truth without force. I live and move and have my being in God. At once, be very still. Say nothing more. Let the words fall back and let the presence be the presence. Silence, stillness, quietness, and then confidence. Now we move in a gentle cycle of 3. First, acknowledge presence. God is the only power. I and the Father are one. Second, release the labels of this day. Titles, tasks, appointments, regrets, hopes. Let them drop as coats upon a chair. Third, rest in silence and consent to what is already here. Again, without effort, we repeat. Acknowledge presence. I live and move and have my being in God, here, now, in this very breath. Release the day's identities and descriptions. You do not need a name to sit in the temple of the living God. Rest in silence. Place the seal on the treatment by refusing to add to it. Once more. Acknowledge. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Release. Let even the practice be simple. Rest. Not by might, not by power, but by the grace of God. Let the awareness that recognized a single breath become your portable sanctuary. Right here as you sit, it steadies you. Later, as you rise and walk, it travels effortlessly. As you move through a corridor or a street, let the same threefold rhythm accompany you in miniature. Acknowledge presence. Inwardly, without moving the lips, remember, Thou art with me. Release labels. Step free of the role you think you are playing in that moment. Rest. Allow one silent beat between steps in which you lean back into the infinite that carries you. No show, no strain, no outward sign. Merely the quiet fact of being upheld. This is the street practice. With each step, one remembrance. Thou art with me. When you forget, do not correct. Simply begin again with one breath. One breath, one truth, one silence. In an elevator, on a call, across a threshold, in a doorway, you live and move and have your being in God. You cannot go anywhere to find this, and you cannot go anywhere to leave it. We close this round with quiet confidence, not with trying. Not, I will try to remember God, but, I cannot be outside God, therefore I can relax. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Let these be lamps, not labor. Speak them once, then return to listening. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows truth. Carry this lightly. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 at night, and throughout the day, the one breath remembrance. Acknowledge, release, rest. Breath by breath, step by step, the practice matures into life itself. You discover that the presence is not confined to meditation. It is the atmosphere of your being. And as you go, let the heart say without words, nearer than hands and feet, closer than breath, God is the only power, and I am at home. Beloved, let it come down to this one simple clarity. You cannot go anywhere to find God, because you cannot go anywhere to leave God. The wandering is over when you see there is no distance to cross. Nearer than hands and feet, closer than breath, the one that is your life is here. This is the temple of the living God, not approached, but recognized, not achieved, but allowed. Abiding is the end of seeking. To abide is to rest in the fact that the presence that sustains you is the very life you are living. Therefore, take no counsel of fear concerning the hours ahead. God is the only power. The day is not a power. Circumstance is not a power. Opinion is not a power. There is no second law to threaten the one. You live and move and have your being in God, and because that is so, the movements of this day can neither add to you nor take from you. They can only reveal what already is when you remain at home in the heart. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon you, within you, as you. We will set a final lamp in the window, and then we will be still. Speak gently, once. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thou art with me. God is the only power. Now place the seal on this by your quiet. Be very still. Say nothing more. Let the words fall back into the silence from which they came. Silence, stillness, quietness, and then confidence. Not by might, not by power, but by the grace of God. Rise from this, not as one leaving a sanctuary, but as one discovering there is no outside to it. Walk softly and naturally, without display. Let your steps be robed in remembrance. Thou art with me. When you speak, let it be from the center that needs no defense. When you listen, let it be from the center that fears no report. The presence goes before you to make the crooked places straight, and yet it never leaves within, for within is where it is known. This is your safety, your sufficiency, your peace. And now set the rhythm for your days. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 at night, and the one breath remembrance whenever it comes to mind. Return tomorrow and the next day, not to get closer, but to remember what is eternally close. Each time you consent to silence after truth, demonstration follows in its own way, in its own time, by its own grace. Lo, I am with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Thou art with me. God is the only power. Be at peace and abide. And so it is.